that's 20, once we get all those down. All right, that's 20 topics. Then we'll erase those once we get them all down. And we'll put the last 10 up. Believe it or not, this will come in handy someday. We're close. No. Yeah. Does anybody not have the first 10 done? You've got issues you need to. Okay. All right. So actually we'll go from 12 on. Okay. Because then we can. Okay. So we're at 21. 21. Okay, so that's our 30. All right, so those are 30 vital areas when you're discipling that you need to cover. And you'd say, all right, this is crazy. Okay, so what did we say kind of at the start of discipleship? The start of discipleship, it should take 3 to 5 years. So can we cover that 3 to 5 years? We can, but there should be a plan. Okay, so that's why we're listing out a ton of topics. Then what we're going to be working on is laying out some things, okay, to help you with it. All right, it's a program we're putting together for the fall. Just because what you're gonna find is there are, even we have it, I've been meeting with Dr. Mitchell for the past 6 months going over it. And then our goal is we're gonna finish it through the summer, and then this fall, we're teaching it to everybody. And the reason is that discipleship, we can say, and we have it, we probably have 8 different discipleship tools, at least that. In a cabinet, people can use them, people use those. But the average person that you're gonna work with, as far as in a church, they get saved, you're discipling, and they're gonna say, so how do I disciple somebody? You can give them options, but more than likely, if you just hand them and say, this is what we do, they're gonna be fine with that. If they wanna think outside the box, good. But more than likely, once you give them all of this list and then you get it organized for them, they're not really wanting to think outside the box at all, because they're like, that box is really big. Okay, there's a whole lot of information in that box, and somebody's already organized it. Okay, well, I'll maybe use that, okay? But as you went through, all right, you may not have been thinking while you were typing, but as you look at that list of 30, almost all of us that have grown up as a Christian, as I went through them and looked at it, which one would I chuck? I don't think any of them. All right, and there's probably other things that you'd say, oh yeah, but you know what, it's 30. And some of those, it's not gonna just be an easy lesson. For instance, a lesson on faith. That might take a month for you to go through. It's all right. And we work on it. We develop Bible studies with it. So these are 30 vital areas that kind of need to be built into a life. If we take the 30 topics and we just said, okay, we're going to try to cover 10 a year, what does that do? That gives us 3 years. And so let's think about it. Would it take probably a month to work with somebody on their quiet time? Probably. You're gonna teach a little bit on it, maybe have them do a little bit of a Bible study on it. Then you're probably gonna give them a sample, maybe a month or two, that you can follow up, and then you're meeting with them a couple of times saying, hey, so how's it going? All right, that's just the quiet time. Assurance of salvation, that might be faster, so you might be able to get through that. But you'll notice, like on this assurance of salvation, and that's where you're gonna see that in the plan we're doing, we cover a couple other things, but nowhere in this list of 30 is baptism. It's kind of important, but it's kind of understood that they're already baptized. You're gonna have to teach on that, and that's what, when we get into, okay, how do you do this? Baptism is one of the most important things that you want to do right away. And the reason is, biblically, and this would be a challenge maybe even tomorrow. We come back in and let's see. But try to connect somebody that was saved and didn't get baptized. I found one. Okay? Normally it's just understood they're getting baptized. You read that all, even in the Gospels, you read it in the book of Acts especially. It was just kind of instant. And the reason is that is so important for identifying with Christ, moving ahead in obedience. It's a very important step. So you want to get them baptized. I'm not saying that it's baptism is salvation, but baptism is a huge step on the growth. The next step of growth. So we want to make sure we're doing that, and then we get into these topics. Depending on the need of the person with whom you're working with, and that's why we're working on kind of some guidelines just to help people understand as far as discipleship. Depending on their background as you're working with them, some of these may take a month or two, some may take a week and they got it. Depending on their background. Well, that's okay. You still have the materials there. You have some Bible studies available to work with them on it, but they may, as you're discipling somebody, you'll kind of get a feel for it. They got it. They got it. They understand maybe the number 6 on my list was the Bible. And then underneath that, you see a bunch of things. It says hearing the Word of God, reading the Word of God, Bible study, a doer of the Word. There's a number of things with the Bible. Well, the Bible itself has to be talked about as far as the importance of it. And especially today's day and age, what do you have to cover? Versions. They have to know a little bit about it. Yeah, they have to know a little bit about some of the versions. You don't have to go really in depth, but that's why we have a bookstore We started that years and years ago, and then we're even adding different things in. Why are we doing that? Because we want someone to understand a little bit of it, and if you want more, see us. We'll give you more. Because you don't want them ignorant. Ignorance is going to hurt them when it comes to other doctrines or not doctrines, but other religions. And right away, we mentioned some of the things that are going to happen to somebody when they first get saved. The devil's going to attack them. Former friends are going to start pulling on them. Family members. Oh, come on! I mean, that sounds cultish. All right, so what does that mean? Let's break it down. So why don't you ask the family members what does that mean, cultish? What is cultish about? Because we read only the King James? That's cultish. All right, so does that seem that way to you? You just have to help them through it because they're going to get pounded with a bunch of things and you want to help them in growing. So some of these areas here's 30 topics. Some of these areas, you may even make up a checklist for them as you're going through. And just say, all right, as we're going through this, here's a whole bunch of topics, and when we accomplish it, we're gonna X them off. It's gonna take us a while, it might take us a couple years. But here's, you may work on a little booklet for them, and we're gonna talk about it. One of the biggest things is to build in incentives so that they're growing through it. So, we got that? Okay. We can erase. Okay, so what we did, and this will help you, we divided into 4 areas, okay? Look at that, we got a different color for each one. It's to help you out. All right, so we have beginner. Okay. All right, so this is 1, so 2. Okay, so 3. Oops. Okay, then 4th. Okay, so there is, all right, so what we did is we went through, divided into 4 different levels. Okay, so then your 30 topics kind of weave through here. All right, that's what we're working on. We'll have a, we're working on this for our church actually, and we're going into our door knocking season. So we'll be door knocking, and then there's a few folks that will be training on this through the summer, and then in the fall, we're actually gonna have a handbook that kind of has all of this together for them, just to help them out. Okay, so then you would kind of advance. And what I was saying at the beginning is, all right, so we have 30 topics, which seems just overwhelming, and it would be overwhelming for someone if you came up and you say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, let's take 5 years. And right away they're thinking, okay, this, sorry. So you say, all right, what do you think about, first we're gonna talk to them about baptism. We're gonna talk to them right away about baptism, help them to grow. Then once we get through that, then, hey, do you think you'd be interested in some simple Bible studies to help us? We've kind of developed some of these things. All right, most people are gonna be like, oh, okay. Well, and say, all right, well, we have a beginner stage, there's 3 levels. And then you're gonna have incentives built in there. And that's what we're kind of doing internally. And some of the incentives are just simple. All right, how many of you guys do like any online stuff that gives you incentives? Anybody do anything like that? Okay, so what are some of the online things that you get? I know. So I know some of them. Well, I'm not talking about really, all right, free shipping. Yeah, you could do that. I don't think that's gonna work for us. We could ship them somewhere. Okay, so what else? Anybody else know of anything? Points. All right, points, which, most of the time mean nothing, right? I've noticed that most of your online stuff, it basically, like now, I can't remember, but just a couple of months ago, I got into, I travel a decent amount, and TripAdvisor kept on irritating me, saying this and that. So finally, it was just, I think it was now 9 weeks ago, or 10 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, I think. I was like, you know what? I traveled a bunch, so I just went back, and I'd have, if I was traveling somewhere and I was sitting at the airport, I would take a half hour, and I would just think back of an area, because you can't go way back, but I started back in August. So I was in New York, I was in this, and so I just started doing a bunch. And as I started doing it, I went through August, September, well, then all of a sudden, like, they just sent me a thing, I'm like 13th in Chesterton. You're ranked 13th with the, and I'm like, whoa. And it was like, yeah, if you just do 2 more, you might be 12th. I'm like, whoa, man. And I clicked on it, and like, whoa, I can reach another level, all right? And then now I'm like an 8th level restaurant expert because of all the restaurants I've done, activities, different things. And so then I started thinking about it, I'm like, so what did I get from this? All right, well, nothing at all. All right, at all, nothing except like, well, I could earn another level. All right, and it keeps on, and then finally I'm like, I don't really have time to just do, reviews nonstop. But it does, I'm like, and the reason that I started doing this is I read them. If I'm going, especially to a hotel, if I'm going to an area, I'm looking at usually TripAdvisor and saying, hey, what's going on in the area? What do people think of it? And what you start noticing is, you start noticing people that are just crabby, and you're like, yeah, well, they hate everything, okay? Or you notice, hey, this person, I've read a couple of their reviews, so what do they think about it? And they don't really give you anything, it's just a level, okay? I listen to books a lot. So I have an account with Audible, all right? If that's now owned by Amazon, everything's owned by Amazon, all right? But Audible used to be its own, but then they got bought by them. All right, so within Audible, when you have your status, you can go and you can earn badges, all right? And it's hilarious, because I can remember when this was years ago, I earned my first badge, and it said, hey, tell a friend about it. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna email my wife and somebody else to just say, hey, and I had no idea what it did, but then they were all being all snarky and stupid, back like, what in the world? Oh, because you finally read a book? Right, you know, right? But you can earn all these badges, like, they have the badge, like if you like read 12 hours straight, or listen 12 hours straight, and they have all these crazy badges you can earn. Right? Now, you get nothing from it. And in fact, you have to buy books in order to earn the badges. Okay? All right? So it's just, in our world though, guess what we know? Those little things, those little incentives, it makes us kind of like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm gonna try to do that. So what we're doing then is working on those, and within every level you get a little something. And that's what, like for yourself personally, if you're discipling with somebody, there needs to be something there. Okay, just saying, hey, well, why don't we try to get through level 1? And it's not, all right, everything is not, you win a gift card. Sorry, you'll be broke by the time you get to 30 lessons. You'll be, you're like, yeah, you don't want to learn anymore, do you? Okay, please say no, because you won't have any money left. But just some simple thing, a certificate, like especially at the end of every level, what we're doing at the end of not every level, but every stage, like beginner, Bible, scholar, soldier, Bible servant, they will get a certificate emailed to them. A certificate that says, hey, you finished all 3 levels. Congratulations. And then at certain ones, we're not sure, it's either at the beginner or Bible scholar. At one of those, then, right, in our situation, I don't really care if somebody in Illinois wants to do this. This is more for local. Does that make sense? And for you, that's what I'm recommending. Hey, if you want to have an international discipleship, whatever, organization, the IDO, all right, International Discipleship Organization. And I have hundreds of thousands of disciples, okay? Sounds creepy, all right? But that's not, I believe in the local church. I don't mind if somebody far away wants to do it. Probably eventually we may have a lead into this on our website. But ultimately, as far as a church, what are we wanting to do? So think about it, because that's one important thing to think about when you're developing something. What are we wanting? I heard a bee or a butterfly or something just busted.
Fulfill the Great Commission?
Fulfill it, all right? And it's very general because you're not wanting the wrong answer, okay? But, all right, that is true, but come on, think about the local church. So what do we want?
Get them to join the church.
We want, all right, get on. So the biggest thing is joining the church and attending. So if somebody is in Maryland and they're like, yeah, I'm like, great. I'll get back with you. It's not really a high priority, but like for a church in Maryland, yeah, it would be, but not for me. Okay. So you want to think about that as far as your purpose. So what am I wanting to do? I'm wanting to build things into this then that help me with that. So, like the beginner level, all right, and a level 1, level 2, level 3. So, all right, in those, there's going to be a personal contact there, right? Basically, there's going to be a personal contact. Somebody's going to be working with them, and we're going to help that discipler. And this is not going to be, like most of us know, like my TripAdvisor, my Audible, and you could name a dozen other things, because probably by this afternoon, all of us, I do the same thing. I'm going through it, and usually about once a month, I go through and unsubscribe to like everything. Because as soon as you buy something, you go into this automated thing that basically every 16 minutes. All right, they're like, hey, did you forget? Like, yes, delete again. Like permanent trash, okay? But what we're trying to do is not make this automated. We're not making it automated where they never see anybody. No. And in fact, that is in church world now. There's kind of a backlash against that because people are tired of everything being automated. I'm not saying that in McDonald's. Actually, I don't mind it in McDonald's. Okay, that you get rid of a high schooler, pay $10,000 for an automated thing, and probably it's going to get right my order. Okay, you know what? I appreciate that. All right, because that 11th grader never gets it right. Okay, and we actually, and I don't recommend this ever. But I've slowly gotten out of the stage. But I remember we did that in the youth group one time. We made up things, and we tried to do. We did a survey of all the fast food and how many things they got wrong. So we made up orders, and you had to make up a weird order. And then we took a survey of the restaurants in town. I don't know if we ever published that because it was very low of how accurate they were. I'm not recommending that for you ever to do if you like to be liked in your community. But anyways, there are some things with automation that people just kind of, we don't mind it, but when it comes to a church, I don't want automated. Okay, it's like the automated, you probably heard funny scenarios on the automated prayer or the fast food prayer service. You know, you pull up and you're like, hey, what do you want? You're like, hey, I like prayer number 1, plus prayer number 3. All right, and I mean it's a jokes that people do, but there so many things are automated today. All right, if somebody calls in, it's like, hello, you've reached Fairhaven Baptist Church. If you've had a death in the family, press 1. If you'd like marriage counseling, press 2. All right, you're like, oh, come on. All right, all right. So if you're about ready to commit suicide, okay, I said, oh. Hang on, I know that's me. All right, but all right, but anyways, all right. So we have the different levels here. All right, I think we're starting to understand some as far as what we're trying to do is build into as we're discipling. We have these lessons. Okay, we have a bunch of lessons to do, but we don't want to overwhelm them. So what we're doing is creating it. By this, we have 12 different levels. All right? And by creating, is it 12? Yeah, 12 different levels. If we have 30 lessons, that's really not that bad. And if they're going through it, and if they're accomplishing level 1, accomplishing level 2, accomplishing level 3, and in between there, we're giving them kind of attaboys. As a discipler, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to help them at each stage to let's keep going. And understanding that sometimes they may pause a little bit. That's discipling. Somebody may stop coming for a couple of weeks. That's part of growth. Right? Somebody may not be reading the Bible real consistent for a while. That's okay. Well, we're gonna just slowly keep at them. Hey, do you need something? All right, so in these levels, hopefully that is helping us understand. We have all kinds of topics. Now we've divided into levels, and then, all right, in between these guys, what we're doing is the person that is discipling has their email, they have their phone number, because what are they doing then? They're always trying to encourage them. And that's where it's not automated. Now what we're gonna be doing is, Dr. Mitchell and I are working on it, what we're doing is we're making templates, like sample text, sample notes, that go out there, because I just think that sometimes people have a hard time creating something. So, here's level 1, and under level 1, we're calling it the ABCs. And level 1 is the ABCs. It's assurance, it's baptism, it's church membership. So the ABCs, during that time, usually there's a couple lessons to achieve in each level. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to encourage them during this. So if there's 3 lessons here, you hand them a lesson, and then right away there's a text. Hey, were you able to read it? That's maybe you give them the lesson on a Friday or Saturday, the next Monday or Tuesday. Hey, do you have any questions about it? A quick text. It could be something about that lesson then, because maybe you're seeing they're not getting it. So then a quick email with a Bible verse about assurance a couple days later. Hey, this Bible verse may help you with this lesson on assurance. What are you doing? You're keeping contact with them. If there is not personal contact, that person is not going to get through it. That's the idea of discipling. Remember we said way back when we were talking about discipling, do we leave a 2-year-old and we just throw them a bunch of stuff and say, hey, you know what? There's a chainsaw. What doth hinder you from cutting the wood? All right? And when their toes are gone and a foot or somebody else's, or you let them loose in the nursery, all right, which would be pretty damaging, all right? You're like, no, what are we trying to do? We're there to help them, we're teaching them. So there's gotta be some contact there, okay? So we're encouraging, but we're also, and this is something that is missing today, there's a whole idea that everything has to be just happy. That is not always going to be true with discipling. You're encouraging, but the Bible tells us to speak the truth, but how are we supposed to speak it? In love. So there are going to be times when you're discipling somebody that they're like, you know what, I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like coming to church, and I don't feel like reading my Bible. I think it's all a hoax. So you're going to have to sit down with them. And the little fuzzy happiness ain't going to work at that time. You're like, you know what? We just need to be happy. All right? You're like, I ain't. I'll be happy when you get off my porch. All right? Get off my couch and leave. Get in your car. When I hear the hum of your motor, all right, and the squeal of your tires as you leave my property, I will be happy. All right? And then you're going to say, no. All right? This is a wrong attitude. You're going to sometimes have to speak the truth in love. You're gonna have to steer them towards right sometimes. That's okay. You steer them towards right. And you say, you know what, maybe you need a little bit of distance, but can I come back in a couple of weeks then? You know, maybe you're having some problems, you gotta think this through. I've given you the Bible. Why don't you just take some time, read the Bible for a couple of weeks? I'll come back. Would that be okay? So what are we trying to do? We're trying to be there as a discipler to get them through the different levels. Okay, so let's say that within level 1, we were able to get them baptized, they were able to start one, and then I'm emailing them. I'm then also trying to do different things to help them and encourage them. Let's say they get the way we're working on it is within each level, they have 2 or 3 lessons. Okay? And that's why we're putting something at the end of each level kind of as an incentive. And it might be just we're working on our own little email badges. Hey, if Audible can do it to me, I can do it to somebody else, and, all right, so you have achieved beginner level 1, you've achieved beginner level 2, level 3, and in between there though, I want to encourage them. So maybe as a person that's discipling, they finished one of the lessons in level 1, we need to get another one, and I say, hey, congratulations on getting that one done, we only have 2 more, and we get the badge. Why don't you meet me for coffee, and we can go through level 2 together? What am I doing? I'm helping them, I'm encouraging them, but it's not that irritating email that all of us are deleting. Because you get them like, hey, you still there? Yes, right? From the last minute that you got a hold of me, so quit it, right? So you're trying to develop that balance, but some of that is personal contact. And that's why we're trying to develop, again, through this, we have the different levels. At the end of each one, right, let's say they finish all the beginner section. They're gonna get kind of a little certificate, looks kind of like a diploma, that says you finished that, but then I want something else there too. So what might that be? Well, it's locally, so by the time they get done with this, they've probably done 8 or 9 lessons. I don't have a problem. When you're done with that, hey, can somebody drop by and give you the certificate and also give you a brand new Bible? Well, okay, so is a Bible gonna do them bad? No, and I would like them to get a Bible soon. So you build in, and that's what we're working on that, but I'm just teaching it some to you guys because I want you to be thinking about it. Because some of you, all right, you're going home this summer. Well then, find somebody and start working on it. Start working on it. What we went through soul winning, but discipling, start working on how do you disciple somebody? How do you work at that? Some of that is developing a relationship, and then it's having a contact. Because the church is important for discipleship, but personal contact is too. It's together. Together. Personal, because people make up the church. And they need to be at church. But if all they're doing is somebody's newly saved, most of us, I think, sitting here, would agree with this. We grew because somebody pushed us past just Sunday morning. And it was personal contact. Now, it could have been you had mom and dad that was doing that. That's fine. But you've got to have personal contact that's pushing somebody, and more than likely, it's not going to just take a summer. It's going to take a long time. Again, we're talking 3 to 5 years of somebody just touching with them, working with them. And sometimes, as a discipler, remember what we talked about, you can hand that off. All right, in a family situation and parenting, do you hand off some of the teaching to somebody else? Yes, and that's okay to do. But you're still kind of keeping track of that. Hey, how they doing on it? Hey, I have a friend, he's really good in this subject. Would you like him to come by and you guys can kind of work on it? What are you doing? You're helping them to grow through different levels. All right, so we'll pick up tomorrow with a couple more thoughts on this and then keep going on it. We're gonna finish tomorrow, and then next Thursday, hopefully, it'll be kind of settled in your mind on how to do it, because again, what we're trying to do is help you, because you're gonna be in situations where you may have to develop the whole thing yourself as far as discipleship. Just giving you some options so that when you're discipling somebody, you have kind of a little bit of a format, some type of idea of how to do it, rather than always having to start from scratch every time. Okay, we can be dismissed.